What if I told you that the moment between life and death isn't empty, but filled with something beyond our understanding? That in those final moments, as your heart slows and your brain flickers, you don't just fade into nothingness, but instead experience something incredible. For centuries, people who have had near-death experiences, NDEs, have described things that defy logic. Floating outside their own bodies, watching doctors try to revive them, entering a tunnel of light. Meeting deceased loved ones. Or something else. Some claim they saw heaven. Others say they felt an infinite void. But what if I told you that science is beginning to prove that this isn't just hallucination, but something very real? And what if I told you that what happens between life and death may actually change everything we know about reality? Because the truth is, there's something happening in that space, something so mysterious, so profound, that it may hold the key to what happens after we die. So the question is, are you ready to find out? For thousands of years, every culture has had a different answer to the question of what happens after death. Religions speak of heaven, hell, reincarnation. Some even describe a waiting place, a limbo between worlds. But science has largely dismissed these ideas until recently, because now researchers are starting to study the dying brain itself, and what they've found is disturbing. In 2022, scientists at the University of Michigan recorded the brain activity of a dying person for the first time, and what they saw shocked them. In the 30 seconds before and after the heart stopped beating, there was a massive surge of brain activity, a spike in gamma waves, the same waves linked to lucid dreaming and heightened consciousness. This suggests that in those final moments, something happens. But what? Is it just the brain's last desperate attempt to make sense of death, or is it the moment we transition into something else? To answer that, we have to dive deeper into the science of consciousness itself. Most scientists have long believed that consciousness is just a product of the brain, that when the brain stops working, we stop existing. But there's a problem with that theory, because in thousands of near-death experience cases, people describe seeing and knowing things they shouldn't have been able to. Take the case of Maria, a woman who had a heart attack in Seattle. She was declared clinically dead for several minutes. When she was revived. She told doctors that while she was unconscious, she had floated out of her body, looked down at the hospital, and saw something on the roof, a single blue tennis shoe. The doctors were skeptical, but when they went up to check, the shoe was there. Now, if consciousness dies with the brain, how did she see that? Dr. Bruce Grayson, one of the world's leading researchers on near-death experiences, has studied thousands of cases like this. Many patients recall hearing conversations, seeing objects, even knowing things about their loved ones while they were brain dead, and that's not all. In 2014, scientists at the University of Southampton conducted a massive study of 2,000 cardiac arrest patients. They found that 40% of them had some form of awareness after their heart stopped beating. And in several cases, patients accurately described events that took place while they were clinically dead. So what does this mean? Is the brain still working in ways we don't understand? Or is consciousness something separate from the brain entirely? And if that's true, what is it transitioning into? Of course, not everyone believes this is proof of the afterlife. Many scientists argue that near-death experiences can be explained by oxygen deprivation, causing hallucinations, endorphin release, creating feelings of peace. The dying brain theory, where neurons misfire as the body shuts down, and yet these explanations fail to account for the strangest cases, like people seeing things in the room that were later confirmed as real. And then there's the quantum theory of consciousness. Dr. Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose believe that Consciousness isn't created by the brain. It exists in the quantum fabric of the universe. If that's true, then when we die, our consciousness doesn't end. It simply returns to a greater field of existence. But here's the disturbing question. If consciousness leaves the body at death, where does it go? Some believe it transitions into a higher dimension. Others say it enters a dreamlike realm where time no longer exists. And some even argue that what happens next depends entirely on what you believe. Which means, what if the afterlife isn't a single destination but a projection of your own mind? And if that's the case, what are you shaping for yourself? So let's ask the real question. If we knew what happens after death, how would it change the way we live? If consciousness doesn't end, does that mean we should fear death less? Or does it mean that life itself is just one step in a much bigger journey? Many people who have had near-death experiences come back with profound changes in perspective. They fear death less. They feel more connected to others. They become more focused on what truly matters. Some even report gaining new abilities, heightened intuition, strange synchronicities, even a feeling of being more connected to the universe. If death is just a doorway, what are we being prepared for? And more importantly, why don't we remember it? What if the space between life and death isn't just a transition, but a test? For centuries, we've believed that death is the end, but what if it's just the beginning? The latest research suggests that in those final moments, something extraordinary happens. Something science is only just beginning to understand. Is it just the brain shutting down, or is it a glimpse into a hidden reality, a place between worlds? And if so, what are we supposed to do with that knowledge? Maybe the real question isn't what happens after death, but rather, what are we doing with the time we have before it? Because if death isn't the end, then maybe this life is just a preparation for something much, much bigger. And if that's true, are you ready for it?